Hello, everyone, and welcome to another tier list from your boys at UDS Films. We're going to be talking about the Alien movies from what has been apparently dubbed by the internet the Alien verse. So, this is the Xenomorphs. We're not talking about other things like Third Rock from the Sun and presumably other alien properties. We're talking about the movies with the actual word alien in the title. Makes sense. You probably would have guessed it from the thumbnail. I'm Tom, and I'm joined by the king of UDS Films, Drew. How you doing, Drew?
It's Emperor, I'll have you know. If you
Soz.
could address me as such going forward, that would be much better. I'm doing well despite your lapse of decorum. I will punish that later. Not in a kinky
That's all
way, but
right.
in a just
Oh,
ill
that's a
way.
shame.
Sorry.
Well,
Yes, no, it's a beautifully sunny day. I've got my hooch, I've got my boy. It's what else could I want
another
besides
hooch, maybe. Oh, bitch. He's come packing.
I really have. I'm prepped. I'm not standing up for the next hour, so it's all good. If you like, I think we've spoken in the past where it's like, if we got big enough to get sponsorships, where would you draw the line? And I think you've said something along the lines before of like, if I had children, I would sell, I would monetize them immediately. So you have no lines. You would just
No.
like you take advertising, you raid Shadow Legends right out the gate. Um, you know, um, bull testosterone pills. You'd go straight in for that, shilling for like Alex Jones stuff, yeah. And I was a little bit more selective, but I think Hooch would be our prime candidate. I think there would be no arguments there. I would devote like a full third of videos to just Hooch advertisements. I'd have it in the background of every shot, just the wall of Hooch. It's back here. That'd be good.
So what you're saying is the series that you've made that you're very proud of would need to be renamed. So instead of movies that deserve more love, it would become movies that deserve more hooch. And
Presented by Hooch. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
we review films out of 1 to 5 hooches.
Yeah.
Um,
This tier list would just be like scales of like hooch. So like the most hooch to the least hooch. There wouldn't be tier lists. It would just be hooch and not hooch.
do you ever like, hear a word so much in a short amount of time, it just feels like it isn't real very,
Yeah.
very quickly. It almost sounds like a Scottish slur all of a sudden.
I sling it all, you hooch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ooch. Wow.
Hooch. Yeah.
Uh, I can't think of any human segue to go from talking about hooch to xenomorphs. Uh,
Finally. That's always been like a challenge of mine. How far can I derail it so that Tom can't segue back into the thing that we're talking about? And finally, you've always been able to do something miraculous and get right back on track. Today's the day I've defeated you. I'm happy.
I mean, the xenomorph blood does almost look a little bit hooch-like.
You
So
got me. You got me there.
there's
That was a
there's
good one.
something in there. There's something in there. But I think it's fair to say we're both fans of Alien as a franchise. I think it's a franchise that, it may have had, obviously we're going to talk about its lows and its highs, but I think
Hmm.
broadly speaking, I get pretty excited when I hear news about a new Alien film or something in the Alien verse.
Yeah, I can't help it. Despite we are going to go into them, there have been a fair few lows, but I still will turn up every single time. There's just something about the inherent nature of the Alien franchise that is just like it hits all my buttons. It's fantastic as like just as a concept. And I think that even when it's doing really badly, it's still a lot of fun. No, maybe fun isn't the right word, but it's very compelling as an idea, the aliens. Um, yeah. And we to be clear, we are going to be for this tier list just doing like Alien and then like AVP. We're not going into like Predator. We're not going into all of the rest of Alien adjacent properties. There's been a lot of Alien crossovers in media over the years. A good Marvel
Yeah.
comic, a good Judge Dredd comic. Yeah.
I remember fondly Batman versus Alien. That
Oh,
was a very, very good one.
that was a good one. Yeah, it's pretty widespread. I sometimes think that there's like very few movies in the Alien franchise compared to its like longevity over time. Normally, we've got a whole bunch of like horror franchises coming out the woodworks with legacy sequels, doing, bringing back the old like stars to, reunite and face the demons once again. They already did that with Alien in the 90s like that. They already went and did that. It's kind of
Yeah.
wild that it's still just kind of trucking along. It's evolved beyond its original premise into like a whole it's I was kind of scoffed earlier when you said the alien verse because I was like everything has to be a verse now, but like yeah, like it does feel like its own universe in a very kind of I'm accepting it kind of way. It doesn't feel very shoehorned in. It feels like a
Mm.
genuinely lived world. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for
I like
sure.
things that populate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got the whole, I mean, we're not going to go too much into the plots or anything, but you've got the whole,
Mm,
the human element of everything where, there's this evil corporation that wants to basically monetize and weaponize the xenomorphs, and whether or
mhm.
not they're the even more evil than these horrible movie monsters. And yeah, there's so much to it. And even, for their all their flaws, even the more recent ones of Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which again we'll get to, they definitely add some really interesting lore dumps and other bits to the story. But we're gonna get to all that. We're gonna get to all that. But
Yeah.
I think we should get to some actual rankings. So the usual tier listing ranking malarkey applies. We've got at the top, instead of S tier, perfect organism, which is what the xenomorph is.
Of course.
Then A, B, and C as usual. And then we couldn't decide whether or not to go with the classic Game Over Man for the lowest tier, or Spunkmeyer, named after the soldier or the colonial marine from Aliens, because his name is Spunkmeyer. But there was a disagreement between Drew and I as to whether or not the name Spunkmeyer would warrant the lowest tier or the highest tier. So I think to save controversy, we'll just do a shout out to Spunkmeyer and leave it with Game Over Man.
Or at the end of it, we could say we think is the spunkiest alien movie. Oh no, that's Resurrections. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the spunkiest. That's an incredibly horny film. We will get to it, but yeah,
I'm not
uncomfortably
looking forward
horny.
to it.
I
All
don't think
right.
anybody is.
All right. Well, okay, let's get on with it. Let's do it in chronological order because that seems sensible, and start with 1979's Alien, the one that started it all, Ridley Scott's magnum opus, the tried and
Really?
tested formula.
Over
I think
Blade Runner,
so.
you're calling that his magnum opus. Interesting.
Don't don't really care for Blade Runner.
Oh, it's not
Sorry.
it's not the time. Oh God, I'm gonna carry this with me the whole fucking recording.
Didn't care for either of them. Didn't care for either of them. Sorry, Denis.
What?
Sorry, Ridley.
Okay.
Um,
Well, friendship ended with Tom.
that's
I
all right.
didn't think
We got to get through this video and then it's over.
S A C D. There we go. We're done. Move. Let's
Hold on,
leave.
I already know. Hold on. I disagree with a lot of that already.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
okay, so Alien is the classic formula where you got a crew of space truckers pick up Alien, Alien hatches out of man's chest, kills the rest of the crew. Woman gives good advice the entire time, isn't listened to by anyone. She and the cat survive. So
Tale as old as time. Honestly.
Taylor's oldest time, much like Beauty and the Beast. I love this film. I think it's fantastic. I think the tension, the show don't tell of the it's basically
Mm.
Jaws in space. It's great. H.R. Geiger's original Alien design is fucking brilliant. The crew are great for all of their little quirks and everything. Like Tom Skerritt as Captain Dallas. Uh, You've got Ian Holm as Ash, the evil android, sorry, not cyborg, and
Mhm.
it's just great. The even like the retro futuristic '70s set is just so iconic. The ping
Mhm.
of the finder when he's running through the vents, and
Mm.
or she, I don't know if the alien has a gender, but it's
That's a
great.
question. Yeah. I mean, well, I can just echo all of that. It's fantastic. Every single little bit of it is seamlessly working together so well. Yeah, as you say, like really iconic characters working within like a very sort of limited amount of material to work with for sure. Love Parker and what's the other mechanic guy's names? Their little banter back and forth with
I know it's Harry Dean Stanton. I can't remember his name. Oh, that's gonna.
yeah. Well, they
I know.
their little back and forth about shares. There's a lot of personality on each of the people, which is something that that feels very sort of naturalistic as well. I
Mm.
think that a lot of what goes a long way in making that first Alien film feel so um horrifying is the real kind of normality of all of the people in it before everything goes to crap. It can feel a lot in like horror films where it's like, here are your expected stereotypes. Now watch them all get killed off. And you watch Alien and it's like they've got quirks, they've got identities, but you do feel like they're just kind of ordinary Joes just going about
Yeah.
their days. And to the fact that like this is like a very much an introducing Sigourney Weaver kind of movie,
Mm.
how kind of she comes out from the shadows as the protagonist when you've got Dallas the captain, you got Ian Holm, who's by far like the more famous actor out of the bunch of them, who's more involved in the beginning as well. And you're like, wait, who's going to be the main character? And yeah, it's a horror trope to have the final girl, but like it does feel like they're all people and any one of them could have come out on top of, but Ripley was the most sensible out of all of them. Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's horrifying. It has probably, I think, the most effective jump scare I've ever seen in my entire life.
Is that Jazz
When
Hands?
it's jazz hands in the vents go, ah. And I remember getting the Alien quadrilogy on DVD because that and devoting myself to dispelling the fear of that moment because you couldn't pause shit before. You'd pause a
Hmm.
VHS and it would be like static all over the place. Can't see shit, and that added to the horror. To be completely honest with you, having a VHS of Alien was not fun whatsoever. And then getting it on DVD and pausing it and going frame by frame and being like, okay, it's just a dude in a suit. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And that scene just lived with me for ages. And it's not even the only one that's freaking horrifying in that scene. I've brought it up like a dozen different times in UDS things, from articles about like the best horror movie monsters, the xenomorph, like you say, H.R. Giger's design and the way they built off it with its reproductive cycle is just horrific, like the worst thing imaginable, like a parasitic wasp combined with a demon. It's awful. And then the yeah, bringing it up in terms of like the way it plays with sound, like you say, the ping of the motion tracker, the general ambience of like, I think it did do a big part in shaping space ambience of like
Mm.
the soundscape of space films. The way that like technology kind of pings through space, you see it echo all the way through to like JJ Abrams' Star Trek movies. It's like they sound very similar out in space. And then the kind of mechanical clunkiness of it, the steam, the gears, all of that adds to this really, really immersive experience. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. In general, not just the best horror movies ever made, from every level of production, from like acting, sound design, set design, the concept of it, the script. Like it's a freaking dream as well for analysis. You can go into feminist theory, Marxist
Oh,
theory. Like
100%.
it is the movie for anybody who wants to think about a thing and go, look what they did there. It's fantastic.
I mean, that xenomorph be raping people. Like, let's be honest.
Yes. Yeah, can't shy away from that. The whole that it is a penis demon from head to foot is
Yep.
is chasing after all of the lasses. And that one scene where he kills Lambert and Parker, I've always been like really haunted by that because it's so
Yeah.
ambiguous. It's just like really, really unsettling what exactly it's doing. And ugh, yeah,
And and
no,
and if you just treat this movie in isolation, given that, it was like another what, like 7 years before the sequel, and you don't have all of that extended lore or world building, if you can consider it as an isolated piece, there is so much ambiguity as to what it's trying to do when it comes to
yeah,
sort of, the concept of it sexually assaulting people being this fuck demon, basically.
yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible, horrible. And yeah, and even like, the concept of sort of, Jesus Christ, stop knocking over the microphone. Um, even the concept of it being an allegory for like unwanted childbirth and things
Yeah.
like that. It's yeah, it's a nasty watch, but also a very clever watch, given that it is very show don't tell,
Hmm.
which it does remarkably well. I think this is an easy perfect organism,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
I'm gonna have to work really hard not to say perfect orgasm. But yeah, I think it's a series that relies on its debut to carry its legacy in a way.
Yeah.
And well, we'll get to whether or not it carries it, but I think you wouldn't
I
have you wouldn't have the it be so iconic without this film, and I think
No,
for good reason.
it's an
Um,
incredible springboard. Many of the series have taken it into. I think we'll find that there's like two divergent ways that people have taken the Alien series from here, and both are, as we'll probably see in the next one, very, very valid. But the one that is kind of looping back around is the it's kind of surprising actually. They must not have thought it at the time that the aesthetics of Alien have kind of become more iconic sometimes than the alien itself, as bringing
mm,
back around retrofuturism, 1970s 1980s retrofuturism. And it wasn't retrofuturism at the time, it was just futurism. But like the what people have taken away from Alien is the aesthetics of the world that they created and called it retrofuturism in that particular sense. And it's because it's so appropriate. Everything is just so lined up to be scary and ominous within every little bit of ordinary things. I'm sat here playing the Dead Space remake, and I'm going through these creepy mechanical corridors with like fleshy walls and steam vents going off and everything. And I'm like, that doesn't exist without Alien. The kind of biomechanical horror of something like Event Horizon or something like that. None of these things really exist without Alien, and it's incredible that it started so hard. Like they probably peaked just then and there with probably about as horrifying as you can get with a space sci-fi. I can't think of anything that's scarier than it, for instance.
yeah, I mean, you've got a bunch of auteurs at the top of their game. You've got Ridley Scott with, well, what I would say is his best movie. It's at least one of his best movies.
Yeah,
You've
no
got
doubt.
H.R. Geiger, who is this visionary, creepy fucking artist who, was and still is long after he's dead.
Mm,
This visionary of weird, unsettling, like you say, biomechanical visions of the future,
yeah.
and then
Combining
you've
like
got
psychosexual imagery with
yeah,
technofuturism. Yeah.
it's really unsettling, and then you've got like you say, a cast that carry the premise so well and so believably in a very understated way, where there no one character is choose the scenery. I mean, obviously Ash does a little bit when he freaks out and starts spewing milk, but
But
other than
honestly,
that,
that
like,
works in its benefit.
yeah.
It's so after such a quiet, still, like you say, not showing the actual horror, a lot of ambiguity. Then just out of nowhere, for him to just start going ape shit and freaking out, spitting milk up, trying to choke Ripley to death. It's jarring. It's absolutely shocking, and also not a twist that you'd ever expect. You'd think it's like you guys have got enough to work with here. The penis demon is enough for the horror, but then they're like, no, a completely coldly psychopathic android is also on the ship, messing everything up. And that's another thing where it comes into is the criticisms of corporate capitalism as well.
Hmm.
The dehumanization of individuals within that framework, that they are crew expendable is the phrase that's always like lived on after the Alien movies. And the way that it balances that is like you say, with who's the real monster here, the alien who's mindlessly killing and everything, or the corporation which is killing people for profit and benefit, which is more the greater evil, the conscious or the unconscious evil, is something that must have been plaguing people in the late 1970s as well anyway, because that's you got everybody running around. You got John Wayne Gacy, you got Ted Bundy, you got all of these 70s serial killers running around. I really wish I could have seen Alien at the time, or maybe I don't, because that must have been absolutely awful. In the midst of like complete loss of like faith in governments and serial killers running around, it must have felt like hell on earth. And like movies are doing this a lot, where they're like, Jesus Christ, the 70s were the worst, like Joker, for instance, and Alien coming slap bang at the end of the decade when everything's starting to look a little bit better and going, actually, it can get a little more horrifying.
It's actually very interesting. I'll send it to you in a sec. there's an old clip that went around the internet recently of people being interviewed after they saw Alien at the time, specifically people who brought their young kids in America. And
Oh God.
there's a couple of people who are like, I do you like regret bringing your kid? And they're like, yeah, if I knew what it was like, I wouldn't have. But then there's one guy who was like, oh yeah, no, I don't regret it. He needs to know about these things. And you think, oh cool, like he's read into it, and he's like, your son needs to know about, the dangers of capitalism or stranger danger or anything like that. But he's like, oh no, with like space travel and everything like that, he's got this is a possibility, and it's like, oh okay, you
You lost me there.
as
You had
as Garth Marenghi once said, I know artists and authors that use subtext, and they're all cowards. Yeah,
That's
good
what
on
Alien
him.
is actually about. Don't go into space,
Yes,
kids. Venus
yeah,
demons will come after you. Don't touch weird fleshy eggs. I mean, that's a good rule in life, actually. If you see a
if
pulsating egg in the ground, don't put your
don't
face in
touch
it.
it.
Walk away.
If you learn nothing else from this video, there you go. 1986. We're moving forward to 1986 with the cleverly titled sequel, Aliens. We're in
Ahead of its
plural
time with
territory.
that. We took a while to start reintroducing that as the way that we're naming sequels. We're back there with Twisters now, and
Yep.
there's so many missed opportunities, like the Lords of the Rings, the
Games
the
of the
God
Thrones,
the Godfathers.
Godfathers. Oh God, now I wanted to just play a game of sequelizing everything.
Duh.
Uh, s-
We'll do it.
oh God. Oh
Give me the good
God,
one.
I'm really trying to think of it now. I'm trying to
Oh my
think of it now.
God, RoboCops. That's gonna happen. That has to happen.
RoboCops.
That has to
Yes,
happen.
I'd watch RoboCops.
I think I would as
Um,
well.
fuck. Well, I'm trying to be funny, but I can't think of any good ones now that's off the top of my head.
Um,
Uh,
I think they should just do it with like things that should not have sequels, like The Pianists or Schindler's Lists.
Schindler's Lists. One's just a shopping list.
Man,
Uh,
just like lists.
oh, I'm trying to think of anything other really inappropriate films, but nothing's coming to mind. Sophie's Choices.
Fucking hell.
Uh, fuck. Oh
Oh
well, let's
God.
move on with Aliens. 1986, taken over by another unknown, underrated director called James
Yeah.
Cameron, and who I've never heard anything he's done since. He's probably fallen into obscurity or something like that.
Yeah, one
Uh,
and done.
exactly, but it picks up the story with Ripley being discovered and thrown right back into the thick of it to go and now save the colony that had been built on the planet where they first found the aliens because no one listened to the warnings. And again, rampant capitalism. Let's build a big old colony where there's aliens because money. Um, it's a lot more action packed,
Hmm.
a lot more firepower from the humans. We've got colonial marines in the fight, so it's not your Joe space trucker that is getting picked off now. You've got lots of people with big old guns, but you've also got a lot more aliens given the title, and so
Hmm.
it's definitely takes a very different approach to Alien, but I wouldn't necessarily say a worse one. I would even say maybe a better one, or at least one I prefer.
Ah,
Um,
I think that's the
uh,
only point that we're ever going to disagree on this is whether or not it's better or worse than Alien. I'd say that we're completely in agreement that it's another perfect organism, just going in a completely different, well, not completely different, but different direction. Because while it does up the action and it does up the, just the volume, the sheer amount of everything from aliens to characters to all of the gunplay and all this kind of stuff, there is a lot of it. It's still bloody like butt clenchingly tense from start to finish. There are like we talked about like horrifying shots with the jazz hands and everything. I think maybe on par, if not better than that, is where they're in the room, and they go to the ceiling and they turns around and they're all crawling towards them. That is a contender for scariest thing I've ever seen. But yeah, it plays with it. I don't necessarily think I've grown just with familiarity to thinking of it as more of a fun action movie, and so like I'm more inclined to watch Aliens than Alien 1, which makes me uncomfortable and I think is
hmm.
like a fantastic experience, but like not one I'm liable to repeat, whereas I could slap on Aliens any day of the week and be like, I'm having a great time. It's the classic James Cameron. It's quotable. It's fun. It's got no less iconic characters than the first one. Much like more bombastic characters than the first one for sure, because they are that type. Grunts. Colonial Marines heading off to what they think is a really easy bug hunt. And there's some iconic performances that he gets out of that as well. Obviously, Hudson, the late great what's his face,
Bill Paxton
Bill Paxton, adding to his repertoire of screaming "fuck you" at movie monsters, which is his
being killed by Terminator and Predator.
damn straight. What a legend. And no less number of those. But like I still think it's so excellently crafted. It's less about like the Jaws kinds of horror if you don't see it. It's more the unrelenting, oh my God, they just don't stop coming, do they? It's that kind of horror, which is more what I'd call tension than horror, which is putting a very fine point on it. And you can interpret that word in a number of different ways, but that's how I kind of differentiate in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say you're absolutely correct that Alien is a much more contemplative, whatever the word is,
Mm.
smarter movie, unlike me who can't say contemplative. And it's whether or not it's a better movie is something I probably haven't had much more thought of because I'm a simple creature and think that and I look at movies about how I enjoy them. So I'm much more looking at my preference for something rather than sort of more of an
Right.
objective superiority. I would say probably that if you were to list the reasons, I would say Alien is probably a better, more crafted movie, which is why when we get to it, I'm not adverse to putting Aliens below it because just because I prefer it, is a completely different issue. I think you're absolutely nailed it on the head that it's a much more breezy watch in that it's got those fun moments which aren't as oppressive. Obviously, the dread and the tension is very much there, and it's not pleasant by any stretch.
No.
But I think it definitely has um, more brevity to it and more levity, brevity, whatever the word is, and I think like you say, it's almost sort of a reflection of the time that it was made in as well, given that, it's
Yeah,
the
80s
optimism of the
action bombast. Yeah. This is right in the middle of that. And Ripley kind of earns her way in the ranks of like Arnold Schwarzenegger and
mm,
characters in Rambo, all these kinds of people who are like, tough, gruff motherfuckers ready to shoot anything. Which is a huge turnaround for her character, who was a warrant officer in the first one. She kind of pulls her
yeah.
own bootstraps up in this one. It's not like she's surrounded by soldiers and then just still is correct about everything. It's just eventually she picks up guns and starts doing it herself. But yeah, it's very much, while the first Alien is a very much a 70s movie, the Aliens is one of the hallmark 80s action movies of its time for sure. But
It's so
I think
funny.
I wouldn't say, oh no, go on.
No, you carry on.
I was going to say I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's any less intelligent or packed full of working with subtext than the first one. I'd say it's like almost on par. They're doing different things. It's much more unsettling the first one, and so it gets you thinking about like what kind of realities it's working with. But the way that Aliens is kind of ahead of its time as a feminist piece for sure.
Mm,
Like the fact that she is the action heroine well before a lot of horror icons were starting to fight back, but also just generally her presence among all of these grunts going, yeah, no, I'm going to do this now, without much quarrel. And then also, again, like the wider themes of it, of motherhood and
mm.
um, lost motherhood and found family and all this kinds of stuff is being played out in things like the Alien Queen. A lot of people have viewed aliens as through like a queer lens, both the trans and gay
Mm.
lens as well, which is really fascinating stuff that I have no idea if James Cameron ever intended any of this, but it's really interesting that it's like a work that has evolved beyond that, as being read in a number of different ways, beyond just like the surface level, kicking ass alien 80s schlock. It's kind of interesting how reflective it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you mentioned it as sort of a feminist piece because not that we're the experts on the matter being to men,
Boys.
uh, boys. But it's really interesting that you nailed it on the head that she's, this badass, tough character that leads the way and, isn't shying away from the horrors and the challenges, but also does it in a way that doesn't negate her femininity either, because she is a mother figure to Newt and
Yeah,
manages to have that element of her character maintain while also being a badass motherfucker.
yeah.
And I think it's really, really quite nuanced the way the James Cameron and the whoever wrote it. I don't know if it was Dan O'Bannon this time or whomever.
No,
But
someone else.
it's very much like you say. It's a smarter movie than a lot of the the schlocky action the 80s action, but does it in a way that you can still enjoy it as a schlocky 80s action film as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Cameron wrote it, by
oh,
the way, as well,
oh, did he?
which,
Interesting.
hell yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's a lot of people have pointed out that Cameron is a fantastic, ironically, is a really fantastic feminist icon for the 80s, but he was kind of like a stepping stone because the only way that he could uh improve women characters in fiction at the time was by making them men is a critique
yeah,
that people have often found is that Ripley was kind of just a person like the rest of the people in the first Alien film, and then it became sort of like a now she's the tough, gruff, rough motherfucker in this one. And but I think that's really quite a disingenuous take to go on it because, like you say, there is that kind of very kind of Jungian, masculine and feminine pairing in her that she is like that she does have the tenderness to look after Newt and care for Newt, but also the the confidence and the unflinching kind of resistance to people like who's the weedy fucker who betrays them?
Burke.
Burke. God, what a bastard Burke is.
Oh,
He
he's
looked
horrible.
exactly like my art teacher in school, and I've held deep resentment to him as a result. I don't know who stemmed it from at first, but I hate them. But the
Wow.
yeah, so like yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like you wouldn't expect it. It's like it while you're there having a rollicking good time, she's shooting all the aliens and getting in the loader, going, get away from her, you bitch. It's like it's so popcorny, but at the same time, it's still like again, I wish I would have been there at the time. I wish I'd been alive
Mm.
watching it at the time and thinking while I was watching it, because it must have been quite forward for its time. It must have been a bit of a revolutionary moment to have Ripley pick up sticks and start fighting things.
And I'm glad it did come out when it did, because if it came out today, people would just probably call it woke, and
Yeah,
it'd be really depressing.
it really
Um,
would. That is kind of a
but
thing that continues to happen in Aliens is yeah, it's like a lot of horror, it does have like a primary like female protagonist, but its whole deal is that they're the survivors and they traditionally kick ass and are right from the get-go. So yeah,
mhm,
Alien, the most feminist franchise in Hollywood.
there's our title.
Hmm.
That's a
Woke
video because
garbage ruining Hollywood since 1979. Wow.
the xenomorph is a trans icon.
I bet you it
Oh,
is. I bet you it is.
I mean, if the
Like
Babadook is a gay icon, then
the Babadook is a gay icon. Venom is a queer icon. Why not? It's just a bunch of goopy black things working around, and they're just like, love is love, man. So
a
what if I
bunch of
want to
goopy.
put a? I could have maybe phrased that a little.
Oh, Jesus.
That's my new
I,
username, goopy black guy.
I'm not commenting on this at all. I am not.
Yeah,
I am dodging that bullet. I'm going to put this below Perfect Organism on but on Perfect Organism below Alien, should I
yeah.
say?
And I'm while I do prefer Alien, I do think on the part of my head, Alien is a better film. I am absolutely with you in that I will watch Aliens far more often, and I would have a lot more fun watching it, which is definitely worth something for sure.
Alien 3 then, released in the year, I've got it up here, 1992, directorial debut of David Fincher,
Who has since
who,
disowned the film because he
yes, he
hated it
has.
so much.
Yes, David Fincher, who would go on to do seminal work like Seven, The Social Network, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, all
Yeah.
fantastic films, Alien 3 is a messy bitch. Um,
Yes.
and if anything, I think is the film on this list that makes me the saddest because it had so much potential.
Yeah.
I'll tell you for why. Because very recently, in the past few years, they did the novelization of this movie based on the original treatment of the script, and it's
Ooh.
fucking brilliant because
Really?
it picks up the story with Hicks as the lead, Michael Bihn's character from Aliens, who in the movie version just dies off screen.
Yeah.
He dies between the two movies, and it's like, okay, cool. But in the novelization of the original treatment, he is a badass. Basically, Ripley and Newt are sort of they get to have their happy ending and go off back to Earth and sort of get out of the firing line. And Hicks is like, nah, I'm doing it. I'm blowing up aliens somewhere else. And I'm like, this is cool. But instead, we got Alien 3 that came out. And even that is complicated because there's two versions. The director's cut is much better than the theatrical cut, in my opinion.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
both are still very, very flawed. But I think the broad strokes are the the escape pod, the Ripley new uh android Bishop
Mm.
and Hicks escape on has a alien queen egg, I believe. It's hidden aboard, which fucks everything up,
Mm.
impregnates Ripley. She's the only survivor there when it lands on a prison planet, which is
Mhm.
fucking bleak. It's a
Yeah.
horrible, horrible place, and it just wreaks havoc in this fucking prison planet.
Yeah.
At the end, Ripley has to sacrifice herself because this alien's about to burst out of her chest, even though the corporation wanna try and keep her in to own the alien and everything. But
Hmm.
I've not. This is the one that I've probably been the longest time since I've seen it, so I don't
Mm.
remember a lot of the finer details. I know it's got a few pretty high profile actors in it. Again, I think it's got Paul McGann in it,
Yep.
and
It's got Pete Postlethwaite, I think, is hanging
yes,
out in the
yeah,
background there. Yep.
fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then, yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's a hot mess. There was a lot of things that were introduced that are cool concepts in Alien 3. The
hmm
putting it on a prison planet, it's rife not only because it's like a really, closed off, claustrophobic location, with plenty of like nice settings for sequences like horror or action sequences, and they do incorporate those towards the end. I have my issues with how the end is filmed. It's just very odd. It's bizarre, but like in concept, it's a fantastic setting for paranoia and fear, and playing off all of the same themes that have been present in all of the rest of the alien movies, like gender and sexual assault, and fear of your fellow man as well. That the danger is inside. That's played out very, very much in the prison planet. But also things like this is the first time the aliens in Aliens look a little different to the first Alien, and
hmm
the lore has kind of expanded that into them be the first alien being a drone and the others being soldiers, as like they perform different functions for the hive, basically. But this was the first film where it introduced the idea that the alien copies the traits of whatever its host
Mm.
is, that the alien is mutable, and that is something that I think was one of the things that may have actually fueled the franchise even further. Any franchise that allows people's imaginations to map it out to other things, where can you make fan fiction of it, basically, is how
Mm.
good a franchise is for existing in the minds of people. And you think of that and you're like, oh my god, what if you put an alien in a shark? What if you had an alien in this, whatever? And what if you put an alien on a predator? And it's like, okay, here we go, and this an entire spin-off franchise is made. But yeah, that all comes from three. And there's a lot of things that are introduced in three that are like staying things in the franchise and are really, really fantastic in concept. It's messy, man. Like it's quite confusing, to be completely honest with you. A lot of the
hmm
time I have no idea what the hell is going on in Alien 3. I have no idea what anybody's motivations are sometimes, and half of the inmates are insane, so that tracks, but like it's a lot less clearly defined. And I guess some devil's advocate could say that that adds to the feeling of disorientation and confusion and fear that is present in the film. But like, honestly, I'm just frustrated most of the time. It doesn't feel intentional. It feels like there's bits of it missing. And when you watch the director's cut, you're like, actually, yeah, hang on, there are. There really are like connective tissue missing. And from what you're saying about the novelization as well, going in a completely different direction, I've heard stories about the shit show that was this production and as well. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it comes out looking so chaotic. And the end result is, even not knowing the stories, that you're like, what the hell is going on here? Yeah, it's a mess.
It's interesting because there you are right, you can tell that there's these nuggets that they wanted to go on. The nearest thing I can just compare it to, and it's a weird comparison, is Zardos, in that it you can tell that there was an attempt at some themes and some cohesion, but it was death by committee or something or other, because it's just too much going on and it's very unfocused and very weird. I
I've
think
always pinned Zardos's lack of focus to drugs,
yes. But
but I have no basis. It just seems like a trip to me.
see that one was probably something like LSD. This is the cocaine done in the boardrooms where they're like, we got to make
Oh,
more money.
it's an Alien
Um,
3, god damn it. What? It's an Alien. Who's that guy on TikTok who does those where he storms into the boardrooms and he's just like, everybody, we're gonna do Gremlins too. Everybody.
is
It
that
feels like
Nick Lutzko?
no, not like Lutska. No, it's a different guy. Oh my god. Boat parade. Sorry.
I
Uh
want to be at the RNC.
Nick Lutzko is
Um,
incredible. No, he's a different guy, but like basically does that where he just bursts into boardrooms and he's just like, "Hey, everybody, Alien 3, we're just gonna make it. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna go, man." Like yeah, it does feel like a very coked up sequel for sequel's sake and no real clear vision or direction going into it, or at least being pulled in many different directions. Maybe David Fincher as a director was just not as well. Directors who are a bit more iconic get more control over their projects. Maybe
hmm.
he was just too new to the scene to really have the ability to make calls like that, and also just maybe he was still figuring it out. It was his
I
first break.
I was actually just looking at the IMDb trivia, and he literally quoted as saying that he had to fight for every single thing, and that to this day no one hates this movie more than me. So it sounds like he
Yeah,
wasn't having a great time with it,
yeah,
and it's a shame because the only thing worse than a bad movie is a bad movie with wasted potential, and I
yeah.
think this is
It
this is
hurts.
it's such a shame. And also this is more of a personal thing. It is a very oppressive film, and I
Yeah,
know alien films are never like a walk in the park, so to speak, but it is bleak from start to finish. And
yeah,
I think, like you say about how Alien is a film you can put on at any time. I think there's a reason this is the film that I've gone back to the least, and it's not necessarily that it's the worst one. I think it's just the one that just sucks the wind out of you the most. That it's
yeah.
just like that was
Even
that was
even the
heavy.
first one, as awful and relentless as it is in its level of tension that it maintains, I've always found that to be a little bit cheeky, like the first Alien as
Hmm.
well. That there's like things like the cat wandering around all the time, and the way that the alien sits and watches and waits. On one hand, horror is always just a hair's breadth away from comedy sometimes, and
Hmm.
like on some viewings, it's like the kind of nervous edge of your seat tension of something like Alien is that the alien is kind of prowling and watching and it's kind of mischievous. It's absolutely
Hmm.
awful and it's gonna put an egg in you, but still, like the way that it hunts is something that is expressing kind of intelligence and kind of like forethought, and it's like waiting in vents and everything like that. There's something a little bit like gremlin-y about the alien. And then the second one, it's all just like, the balls to the wall. There's actual jokes in Alien too.
Hmm.
It's an action 80s movie. But then the third one, you're right, it's absolutely miserable to watch all the way through. Like there's also like I think that they perhaps like in trying to, I don't know, wring some emotion out of you. Maybe go a step too far sometimes. Like when she plugs Bishop's head in and starts talking to him, I get a little bit of like a jarring jolt when she unplugs him and just leaves him there. Because Newt is
Mm,
dead. Hicks is dead, unless you believe Colonial Marines canon. And he's so those two are dead, and they're the heart and soul of Ripley's whole life at that point. And then Bishop has been brought back, and you're like, oh, Bishop, yeah, he was such a sweetie. Oh no, fuck him. I guess he's gone. And then she goes back and nearly gets raped, and it's like, oh my fucking god. And I think that it's maybe just a little too far in how don't get me wrong, Alien is horrific, but it's horrific, just horrific enough. Like, or rather, it's playing on your imagination in it, how horrific it is. A lot of what it does is off screen. You don't often
mm,
see people violently have trauma inflicted on them. It's like you see the aftermath or you hear the aftermath in this one. When in Alien 3, it's very much in your face and it never leaves you. It's just there constantly. And nobody's having a good time. Nobody even has a moment to like smile. You'd think that her Ripley and Charles Dance's relationship is something that's going to develop into something, satisfying and heartwarming, but there's very creepy elements between them as well. She kind of, it seems, only kind of sleeps with him to steer him off the trail of asking about the alien, for instance. And it's like there's no kind of affection in that relationship at all. And then he dies immediately, and it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, nobody's here at all. And then the ending, which is one of the
mm.
all-timer downer endings of everybody dies except for that one guy. And yeah, it's the ultimate downer film for sure. And I think that just makes it just hard to watch.
And I mean, even on a visual level, again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but you've got a colony of people who are all emaciated, who all have to have their head shaved because of infestations of parasites, including Ripley.
Yeah.
It's hard not to draw visual comparisons to things from
Concentration
recent
camps.
history. Exactly. And you just think that
Yeah.
added level beyond any of the plot beats, you're just like, this is giving me bleak connotations. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Then the
I,
furnace as well and the general
mm,
claustrophobia of it. It does feel like you've dropped into hell. That these are prisoners, they're being punished. And they're in this smelting factory, and Ripley eventually tosses herself into the fire and everything. It's the read into it is that she's in hell and she dies in hell and it's awful. And it's like, yeah, it does seem odd to say that you've got to put a happy ending on the Alien film, but like that is a might it is a separation from the other two films, which do end with victory.
hope.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least,
some
yeah.
hope. Yeah,
But yeah, and you think you've been with this character if you watch them at the time they came out, you've been with this character for nearly, well, over 2 decades at this point,
yeah,
and to have such a, in many senses, unsatisfying ending. I'm not saying, like you say, that everything has to be jolly, everyone wins sort of thing, but it is deflating to get that far to only be like, oh no, no, it wasn't even like, obviously there was an element of heroic sacrifice, but it's
yeah.
not like New or Hicks or someone else survived, so she died so that they could live.
No.
Realistically, she's just doing it out of spite more than anything, which I'm all for.
And
But
also a kind of really grim acceptance that humanity are bastards, because she's like,
yeah,
oh no, if I let them help me, quote unquote help me, then they're just going to harvest the aliens and do what they've been trying to do since the first film and use it for nefarious means. I need to kill it to keep it out of the hands of the Wayland Yutani, because otherwise they're going to do something even more fucked up than they did in the second film with it. And it's like the overall theme, I guess, of the first three Alien films is that humanity is a bastard and will always have the worst interests in the heart. And there's a precious few who are kind of fighting back against our worst impulses at all times. But instead of it being one where they overcome that, it's that Ripley has to die to prevent anybody from getting their hands on it. And it's like, there are precious few redeemable characters in the whole film, and I do think that you need someone to latch
mm,
onto. There are some like people who like have their moments, like the low IQ guard and the pastor as well. who isn't Forrest Whitaker, and they all have their moments of heroism or niceness, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't look at them and be like, you're my guy. There's no affection I have for them over
Hmm.
somebody like Bishop or Hicks, for instance. And it's like,
No,
and so it can feel very kind of lonely, very
hmm.
isolating watching that film, and you're just like, ugh, I just feel ill. And the Gears of War kind of orange color scheme. I'm not going to begrudge them for having like a, you know, cohesion over the visual style of the film, but it is very. I do think it's much worse looking at the kind of blue orange of like Aliens compared to like the relentless uh browns and grays of Alien 3. I do think that's just a much less engaging viewing experience overall. It's just not that interesting to look at either.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the only real sort of visual standout in terms of that's pretty fucking cool is the iconic one of the alien coming right up to a side profile
Oh,
to
on her
Ripley.
face.
That's
Yeah.
that's pretty iconic.
I'd
But
honestly say that that's probably the image that people think would use when they are trying to like represent the Alien franchise. That's
yeah,
probably the image that I've seen the most ever used to sort of go Alien. There you go, is Alien Ripley with the alien up in her face, which is just funny. Which is makes it
yeah,
more bitter that there are absolute gems within the movie. It's a great way to going back to a one alien versus everybody kind of thing as well, and coming up with
mm,
ingenious ways. It becomes like a trope of the franchise of you can't kill it with conventional means, or you don't have any conventional means, so you have to get scrappy with it. Going back to that, I do feel is good. I like those kinds of films where they have to kind of MacGyver their way out of situations rather than, and it was kind of the point of the second Alien film is that they do come in guns blazing and it doesn't count for shit. But yeah, I do like that they have to kind of like come up with a plan. I always find that
mm.
kind of engaging where they're like, here's a problem, we need to solve it. And you're like, okay, I'm engaged, I'm problem solving, let's go. But it was a confusing ass plan with the candles and the fire and the closing the doors and the really disorienting camera spinning around the POV of the aliens. Like probably was quite technically a pretty big technical achievement, but it's kind of nauseating to watch and a little boring. So,
Yeah.
Alien 3, man.
I think it's a C for me.
I
It's
think it's
not
a C.
unsalvageable, but it's not good.
No, even the
So
director's cut, I think, can't doesn't elevate it above a C. I think.
I agree. I agree. Right, well, let's finish off the original quadrilogy. Don't worry, we're going to do the other ones as well with 97's Alien Resurrection. You think Ripley's dead? She ain't dead. She is actually dead. She's just been cloned and brought back to life 200 years in the future. So this was directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, I think is the name, who
Really, this wasn't
did
Luc Besson. I always assumed that every weird French movie is Luc Besson.
no, it's got that bit of Luc Besson too. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but he's the guy who directed Amelie.
Oh, okay.
So
What?
so
What?
yeah,
They
I
go,
know, right?
whose
He
idea was
and
this? Was he hired or did he volunteer?
this was the film he made directly before Amelie. I know, I know.
Okay, okay.
Um, but this is a film again, which I have very, very, very mixed feelings for because
Uh,
I feel like it's got the breeziness of Aliens in the I can watch this and have a okay, not even an okay time. I find this film easy to watch. It is not a
mm,
good film.
yeah.
Um, you'll have to probably fill in the gaps for me, but basically 200 years in the future the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is still trying to get their grubby mitts on, the perfect alien or something like that.
Yeah.
So they've cloned Ripley, and the way they've cloned her, the alien blood or alien DNA is still in her. So she's got like a weird alien powers where she's super strong,
Mhm.
has a weird affinity with the xenomorphs as well. Um, and then there's a crew of people. They include Ron Perlman and android Winona Ryder. Um, they play basketball.
Your struggles
They're
with this are so real. It is chaotic as a movie. It's hard
and
to.
and then there is actual xenomorphs that the scientists are working on that somehow get out or they've been sabotaged. I can't fucking remember.
They get
Uh,
themselves out because they watch and learn all of the little tricks that the people are playing, and then they kill one of their own, and it melts through the floor, and they run out.
oh yes, I remember now.
Because
Um,
what's his face? Brad Dourif was busy tonguing the window with them. Oh my God, whatever. It's a
okay.
film.
And through things happen, and at some point there's a room full of all the failed Ripley clones, which is weird.
That's it,
And
pal. Yeah.
then at one point near the end, I can't remember how it's born or where it comes from, but there's a human alien hybrid which
Oh,
has a
they just
weird
come
skull
across
face.
it. Yeah,
Or do
they
they just
that
come across it?
yeah, yeah. Like Ripley gets kidnapped. She gets taken to a nest that the aliens have presumably been working on this whole time, killing all the crew. And in that intervening time, yeah, they've just been working on a pregnant alien has just been growing in a newborn, as it was called. And then it pops
Okay.
out, and then it kills the queen that gave birth to it, and then proceeds to start trying to hug slash kill Ripley. It's unclear. Both, maybe both, and then they suck it out of the into space in an absolutely hilarious scene. Truly like one of the all-time greats. It gets just very slowly sucked into the vacuum of space, and it's kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
It
The way
really
its
is.
skull goes off, pops
Womp
off. That's
womp.
great. And then they land on Earth after it because they were trying to get back to Earth, and then they land on Earth and they find that it's in ruins, that Paris is destroyed, and something has happened in the intervening time that has meant that Earth has been destroyed.
But we'll never know what it is.
We truly never will.
Because
I don't think we're
that
ever going back to that.
no, and probably
This is
for the
another one that
best.
you can pin down to weird production because Joss Whedon wrote this film.
Yeah.
In one of yet another strange things that he's done. But he had a whole. He was originally a lot of the film was going to be set on Earth, and he had a whole final battle set on Earth, and they were all kind of tossed out. But like, just they wanted like a stinger and a lingering remnant. The ideas were laced there in the story, so they were like, yeah, fuck it, we'll just do this. So that's another chaotic production moment in Alien that we'll just never come back to. Let's just forget about that bit. We'll just go back to the 1970s era and do it like that. But
It's just
yeah.
weird. I mean, I'm just looking at this fucking hybrid alien, and the thing is it says how it had a mixture of female and male sex organs. I mean, this is the fake model they did before they did the screen one, and it's just
Mm.
got a massive dick. Like, it's
Oh my
really
God.
weird. Like, I'm not going to put it on screen because it'll get demonetized, but Jesus Christ. This is another film where
Oh
they
God.
just
Yeah, no, fair enough.
they just wanted to keep it going. Apparently, sorry, Sigourney Weaver didn't want to do this. It took $11 million to get her back in to do this film.
Jesus.
Um, it's milking
Yeah.
a franchise at this point. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I find this a lot easier to watch than Alien 3. And there's something, I don't know if there's something to be said for that or not. It's got that, it's, I think the visuals themselves are almost bordering on Phantom Menace sort of sci-fi
Oh yeah.
bases.
That's an interesting
Um,
comparison. Yeah.
because again, they're only 2 years apart from each other. And I don't know if it's like a Pavlovian response or if I'm like Phantom Menace. That I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of dig these visuals. But I I think it tries to have a little bit more fun than Alien 3, and because of that, I prefer to watch it. Is it a better film? Fucking no. I it's unnecessary to a ludicrous amount, but I don't think it's unsalvageable, nor is it the worst film we're going to cover on this list, in my humble opinion. So I'm veering towards C, but
Yes, I
lower
do agree.
C.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm very, very torn because I love to talk about this film. I don't love to watch it. It's so bizarre and so absurd. Like one of my favorite things to do is just to describe the things that happen in it because it's with visuals as well. I'm like, look at it. Look at the weird fucking film. It's so strange. And like, just so many moments in it make me laugh out loud. Like, I don't know why I find it so funny when they're climbing the ladder and they're all shooting behind them. And it's so absurd. It's so silly. Like the aliens are swimming and climbing up the ladders, and they kind of dodge the bullets and go like, oh,
Isn't
it's
this the
it's
one where the guy who's got the chest burster that's about to come out of him manages to have
yes,
the foresight to grab someone's head, put it up against his chest so that the chest burster goes through his chest and this guy's head?
yeah, petty, like pettiness that I want in my life every single day. Like I'm getting chest bursted, you're coming with me, and the ingenuity as well to like know to sense what's happening to your body as your ribs are breaking and going. I don't like that guy very much, and it's about to be not my problem anymore. It's
Yeah.
it's fantastic. It's very inventive. I feel like a lot of work was done at the ideas stage and not much else. Where it's like the design of the aliens is a lot more glossy and cool looking. That the newborn is, for say what you will about it, it's goofy, it's weird, but it is iconic. It's stuck in my brain. And generally, a lot of the things going on are quite weird. It's a very very weird film, and because of that, it's more memorable, and I like it more because it's just so damn bizarre. And I think that that's a little bit of a bygone time where a franchise as acclaimed and legendary as Alien could feasibly get handed over to somebody who's going to do that, where it's going to be a um uh avant French director is going to take on a Joss Whedon script for the Alien franchise. That just doesn't no that doesn't happen. There's a reason that they keep going back to it with Alien Isolation and Romulus. They're just going right back to the first one and just going back to the roots. After a while, when franchises get that fucking weird, they go back. And this to me, Alien Resurrection is like Resident Evil 6 boulder punching, where it's like, damn it all, I'm sure it's awful, but I love it. I love it with all of my heart. It's absolutely bizarre. I don't think it's good at all. I completely agree. I don't think it's good. I just love it. I really love it. It's hilariously bad. But it's not
I
even
mean,
bad. Like I can't pick it apart and say, oh yes, the cinematography. Oh yes, the acting. It was like, I'm like, what acting? I don't know if anybody was serious in this film. I feel like half the cast were trying a serious role, and half of the cast were just like checked out, doing their own thing. Weaver versus like I don't know, what's her face? Stranger Things mom, Winona
oh,
Ryder.
Winona.
Yeah, I feel like they're on completely different wavelengths while they're acting against each other. And you got like I said, Brad Dourif just being Brad Dourif in the background. Just the weirdest humans on earth. Just and what's his face?
Ron
Hellboy,
Perlman.
Ron Perlman. Yeah, these are like I don't know if it was the same thing at the time, but nowadays I look back at that and I'm like, yeah, of course that movie was fucking weird. Of course it was. Look at all of those people you got there. But yeah, no, I do want to put that as like high C.
I
Um,
you've you know what, I wanted to put it high C as well, but I was just trying to be pretentious. I'm putting Alien Resurrection above Alien 3. I have
yeah,
more
I
fun
think
watching
so.
it.
It's more fun
Like,
and just more engaging. I have a lot more to say about it that doesn't make me sad. So yeah,
agreed.
higher. Okay,
Like that
sweet.
like that Creed song. Um
With
Higher.
arms wide open. What was that?
We're gonna
Creed or was that?
No, that was Creed.
Okay, good.
Can you take me higher? That was Creed.
Yeah, comes the rooster. Once a month, once a month, once a month and a half. Maybe they usually like themed around a wide release to prompt them, but it's like I'll just do them at any time. It's like there's no prep that really needs to go into it. It's just getting the time, like you say. So yeah,
Yeah, they're easy. They're easy work. It's just, you got to commit like an hour or 2 hours where we can both do it at the
yeah,
same time, which just makes it more complicated. But
yeah.
I think we should do them.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Let's do
Okay.
this. Let's do this. Right, and now we move on to the Alien versus Predator duality. I don't know what it is. There's two of them.
Duology.
Um, Duology, that's the word. Duality is the
Horrible
Slipknot
word.
song.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and frankly, Alien versus Predator makes me want to stick my fingers into my eyes. Um, and
Interesting. I would have thought this would be right up your street.
okay, spoiler alert, I much fucking prefer Requiem. Let me tell you. Um,
Oh, okay, 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 okay.
so I'm
Here I
surprised
am
that.
starting this one going, oh, we're not going to have much to say about
Oh
this. You were
gosh.
absolutely right. Oh God. Okay. Okay. Now
So so
let's just get into it. Describe the
so
AVP. Let's take us through the plot.
right. Well, first of all, AVP is directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who, frankly, you owe your career on YouTube to at this point, uh, thanks to the Resident Evil films.
Honestly,
Uh,
like I feel so horrible where like all of your all of your success comes from hating on one guy. And I'm like, damn it all, I would have nothing without you. Oh, I hate you and I love you. What a guy.
oh, wow. Does he take AVP in some direction? So this is a franchise and a pairing that people have been clamoring for over a decade since, the not only have there been lots of AVP games and comics, there was a fucking
Mhm.
xenomorph skull at the end of Predator 2,
Yep, that
and
got people talking. Yeah.
the appetites were sufficiently whetted by this point, and the film we got was really, really boring. You've
Yes.
got
It's a
you've
lot of
got
walking through a maze. They discover a pyramid that's like a later found out to be like a predator hunting ground, like a temple where they'll sacrifice people to the aliens, like ancient humans, and then they'll have a little hunt. And then most of the film is just this crew of explorers just kind of wandering around mazes, getting lost. Yeah.
and it's not and it's not even that violent. You'd think the amount of gore you could, and I'm not saying that, like violence or like gratuitous gore makes and breaks a film, but for fuck's sake, you've got Alien and Predator there. I want to see some limbs are flailing. I want to see. I know
Yeah.
that you do see some alien decapitations, but even the fucking chest burster scenes are watered down in this
Yeah.
film. I think in the UK, all of the other films are rated 18. This is rated a 15. I think in the US, there might have even been a
Sure.
PG. There was a
It's
PG
so it
13
does look like
edit.
PG-13 to me. Like absolutely. Because it feels like, with like the yellow and green alien and predator blood, it feels like, when they
Mm,
like get past the censors because it's not actual blood. It's like blue alien blood, and that's one of the ways they get around it. I do feel like that's kind of something that they were leaning into, maybe, is the
yeah.
but you're absolutely right. You've got a creature with a sword tail, a punchy tongue mouth. Its blood is acid, and then you've got predators whose like most iconic move is skinning and ripping the spines out of creatures, sometimes alive. And you're like you see them fight, and it's very it looks like, what is that style of animation where it's a guy in a suit in a small set and they're like, rah, like Godzilla or Power Rangers, and they make him look big.
Mm,
But it's basically a guy in a suit going like miming the action. It kind of has that same vibe to me of a bunch of people in suits kind of flailing at each other. And there are some CGI bits where the aliens jump around, but God, does it not hold up. Yeah,
everything looks
it's
very rubber.
Yes. It's very, yeah, tame, very like you'd think that AVP would be the most bloody, most violent, most um insane action combo ever, but it is mostly quite dry and restrained. Like a lot of Paul W.S. Anderson films, you're like, I kind of expected this to be more. They're weird,
Yeah.
but not that weird, you know?
You think if you're going to go like this is a film where the whole subtext and the intelligence of the other films you could do away with just for a big old bloody carnage alien predator fuck fest or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just reading my fan fiction. But it just like you say, it almost feels like it never gets out of first gear, and it tries to do these weird things, like the lead lady actor who somehow wins the respect of the predator, and then they partner up, and then there's like a weird sexual tension at one point, I'm pretty sure as well, and
It's hard to
it's
escape in alien properties. Weird
that's
sexual
true.
tension is the name of the game. We didn't even touch on that with Resurrection. The yeah, like best we
The
just leave that
horniest
alone.
one.
Yes, the
Yeah.
horniest. We moved
Um,
on from that one. Yeah,
I
But the
just I
I just think that it's very it did we I think I said earlier where I was like all of the people are quite distinct in the first couple of Alien films, but they all do feel like real people. And in this one, does feel like you're the nerd, you're the girl, you're the old guy, you're the hunky jock and everything like that, and you're all so disposable. I just give no shits about you at all. It's not even like a little bit like fun in like a cheeky way. I can think of one bit where it's like they're in the room and it goes, "What did you say this room was again?" And they're like, "The sacrificial chamber," whilst all the doors close and eggs rise up and everything. That's the kind of fun I was looking for. Is just like, oh, you're all fucked. I know you're fucked, and I just want to see crazy things happen, on screen, which kind of seems like what Romulus is going for a little bit. But it's yeah, but it doesn't really deliver a lot on that. It feels like a special episode of Stargate more than anything.
Yeah, that is literally it, isn't it? It feels very made for TV, and
Yeah.
and
You can
I
see the ad breaks fading to black in like certain sections
yeah,
of the film.
I think for the strength of the premise and the hype going into it, for my money, this is the weakest film featuring xenomorphs in to date. I'm 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 putting it out there. I think this is a game over, man.
I would so here's the only reason why I'm willing to accept it as a game over, man, because I think both of the AVPs are absolute garbage. But like while I would say it's has some pluses are like a couple of little moments where I'm like, that was cool. That was actually cool. There's a bit where an alien is creeping up on the main predator and he just spins around, gets his sword, and just goes like that, and it just slices its head off and then just carries on with his day. That was so cool that I was like, you know what, fair. And the bit where they make like a sword, a spear, and like a shield out of the alien's skin, as kind of implausible as it is that she's like able to hold that and everything is like, yeah, that sure, whatever. But it's just that's the kind of shit that I wanted the most of. I wanted it to be like kind of like what Prey ended up being is a really scrappy, the human is there, is completely outmatched by like the alien and the predator, and they've kind of got to like use their wits and scavenge for things to survive. But that wasn't the film. That was like the last 10 minutes of the film. And oh my God, the Queen was awful. But there are like glints of what I wanted from the film, which is a more of like a mano a mano action film. Just big dumb fun. And there are just a couple of little moments where I'm like, yes, it's not like the worst film I've ever seen. It's just quite disappointing. Dim praise, I know, but it's the only thing where I would say I don't think of it as a game over, man. I think of it as a D. But if you seem to feel so strongly about it, I'm willing
I
to
I
take
t
it.
I tell you what, I think the real controversy is going to be my opinion of Requiem, but
Yes, I
I
honestly
think
can't wait.
I well let's put it in Game Over Man for now. We can always move it
uh,
around and get back to Alien versus Predator Requiem, which released I believe it's in 2000, yeah, 2007, directed by the Strauss brothers, the brothers Strauss, who also directed the film Skyline. Never heard
Oh,
of it.
I was just looking at that earlier today at Eric Balfour. It was a really, really weird alien invasion movie. It was just a little bit disturbing. It had a very odd vibe. Watch Skyline. It's a little bit of a time portal back to like 2010 or 7 or whatever it came out. 10, I think.
2010. You were right on the money.
Yeah.
But basically, at the end of AVP one, the mortally wounded or may even be dead, like hero Predator, is taken back on his ship, and wouldn't you know it, he's been impregnated by an alien, so now has a little pred alien.
Ugh, woke. Ugh,
I
trans births. Unbelievable.
I know. And he's real cute. He's even got the little mandibles when he comes out as the chest burster
It's
at the end of AVP one.
adorable. You kind of want to put it in a cage and just kind of like, yeah, just keep it. It would be like a little graboid from Tremors. I always thought the little Predalien was so cute. And then you see what it does in Requiem. I'll let you go on.
I'm just now thinking, you know, how when we were talking about, I think was it before we started recording about sequelizing films that haven't been sequelized. I want to do the reverse for Tremors and just have Tremor, just the one, just the
Ooh,
one,
just one
uh,
tremor.
just one
Yeah.
Tremor, and then everything's fine.
That's just some
Anyways,
guy out on like a porch on an outback, and then just and then a worm
uh,
just goes blur, and he's like, and then there worm there, and then
uh,
he just carries on with his day,
that
shoots
was
it, and then
weird. Yeah.
anywho,
Anywho, anywho, Alien vs. Predator Requiem is all about the Predalien basically fucks up the Predator ship. It crash lands and then just goes around fucking shit up. And then I believe it's the Predator has to come down and like basically do like a cleanup operation as it's
yep,
fucking up this Midwest town.
yeah,
Uh, and it does, and then that's basically it. I tell
yeah,
you for why I quite like this film, and I know it's not a good film, but I'll tell you for why. Because it is
mm-hmm,
full B movie. It is full stupid B movie, and I think I find some enjoyment, whether or not it's intentional or not from that. Because all of my criticism about AVP1, about not there being enough violence or holding back on that, you can forget about it in this one. No one is safe. There's fucking kid gets killed in like the first like
yeah. He gets
30
chest
seconds.
bursted. I make a joke about
Yeah.
that in my next upcoming video.
And I'm
Unrelated.
like, okay, no one is safe in this one. Fucking pregnant lady has like three fucking chest bursters
Oh
come out of her
my
all at
God.
once.
I was saying that, like, this is the scariest thing. Weird, the AVP Requiem has the most horrifying alien moment of all time, and it's when it's putting the thingies down her throat.
Because it just
Oh my God.
combo impregnates her like just
Yeah, it's all the pregnant ladies, and it's just that shot of the gulp, gulp, gulp. Oh my God. Yeah, that's
it's
the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, that's so awful. I can't think of what is worse than that.
stay off Twitter in our year of our
Okay.
Lord 2024.
Don't
But
Google the
I
word slime.
or just anything in the political climate today, that's for sure. Anyways, the cast of characters are so forgettable. You do not get me to name any of them because I can't remember. But
Oh
I
no.
I like I like them being just like the stupid teens caught in like a schlocky scenario where there's this big monster running around. Doesn't necessarily have to be a pred alien or whatever, but it just so happens to be. And I quite like that. There's some chases around the schools and the hospitals where I think one of them gets caught in a swimming pool and then gets fucked up. That's pretty cool. And then the actual Pred Alien design, don't hate that. I think it's pretty cool combination of the both of them. I've got a soft spot for that. And yeah, I just like the way that one, it is stupid fun. It's everything I wanted the first one to be. It doesn't hold any punches about the victims. No one is safe, and you're like, okay, we're ready to swing for the fences on this one. And it's even got a bit of obviously, in hindsight, it doesn't go anywhere, but you've got the little bit of intrigue at the end where the fucking Miss Utani, we've seen Mr. Wayland, Miss
No.
Utani's at the end as well.
Oh
I
yay, I love a bit of lore.
You're speaking to the wrong man on that. Listen, it's not a
I am the
masterpiece.
law.
I I would put this personally, and this is just me personally, I would put this above Alien Resurrection. But I know you're not going to go with me on that one, and I'm not willing to fight hard enough.
Okay. Counterpoints. I can't fucking see a thing in this film.
It's
It is
so
the
dark.
it's the
It's so
darkest movie. You
dark.
everything you were describing, I was like, sure, yeah, that happened. Maybe if you up the brightness by 1,000%. Yeah, the Predalien design is pretty cool. Do you know how I know that? Because I've had to Google it. I have no idea what the Predalien looks like
I
otherwise.
had the action figure, so
Yeah, and it's really flipping cool. I agree. It's like the exactly what I would imagine. It's got the dreads and it's got the mandibles. It's a Predalien. That's what I imagine when I think of Predalien. I don't know that because I watched the film and it's just stomping around and it's just the vague shape of an alien. And I'm like, okay, cool. That I can't see. I can't see any of the action. So I can't really sort of rejoice in the glib like oh yeah, watch him get killed, violently murdered by the thing. I distinctly remember the alien targeting two people and blowing their heads off with its cannon. That stuck in my brain for some reason. That probably because I could see it, but the whole rest of it, the entire climax of the film, they're out in the rain, they're fighting the aliens, the predators running around, the predaliens fighting them, has like a one-on-one fist fight. I don't see a single thing that's happening in that scene. So like yeah, I haven't seen this film, I guess, since 2007. But the anger has stayed with me because I was like the Chang email, the Chang meme where he's just like, what the fuck is this? And I've just carried so much rage because I'm like, it. I think it was like reignited by Game of Thrones, where I'm like, just turn up the fucking brightness in like the long night and everything. Where I'm just like, I would like to see what is happening, please. And that's why I hate it. Like, sure, I'm completely in agreement. I would love an Alien AVP movie. The whole pitch, the premise of the AVPs is that like it's that great tagline: "Whoever wins, we lose." It's just a bunch of humans get fucked up in the midst of a massive, like, grand scale conflict between the aliens and the predators, and the perfect like evolution of that. Like, you can take that two ways. One, Requiem, everybody gets nuked at the end, which I find hilarious, or the which I think is a perfect ending to that film. It's like, yeah, fuck them all. Honestly, it works in the film's favor that they're all such dislikable characters. But like, or the other way is AVP one, where it's like everybody dies, but there's one hero who you kind of follow and they get a big win and everything. And I think that that is more important because of just the nature of storytelling, and that we kind of latch on to protagonists and we like heroes. I think the protagonist this one is that high school kid who's getting bullied, and yeah, again, nobody remembers any of the characters in this film because they don't matter. But I think that that does matter, and if you're gonna, you have to have somebody to follow whilst the story is going on. And like, maybe, yeah, sure, they die in the end in a nuke, whatever. That works better if you're like, yeah, protagonist escaped on a helicopter. Oops, they got nuked. That's more of a hit, and you're like, lol, that's great. But as it happens, Requiem is just this dumb, dark movie where you can't see anything that's happening. Everything that is happening is kind of uninspired because you've seen it before in the Predator and Alien franchise. The Alien and the Predator don't really fight either. The Predalien has like a fist fight with the Predator, and they don't really do anything special because most of the Predator's tech gets taken out, and the Predalien is just a guy that hits people. So like, yeah, fuck Requiem, fuck you, and fuck Requiem.
Do you know the most 2007 thing about this film that I've just looked up on the IMDb trivia is that the directors wanted to make this a 3D film, but they found out
Yes.
that it was too dark to make into 3D.
I am not even a little bit surprised about either of those statements. One, that it was made for 3D. It's so, yeah, absolutely got that vibe. And two, that it was too dark because my human little eyeballs, nothing. Didn't get a single thing. So everything you're saying is completely moot because I could get an equivalent experience by just turning off my monitor and going and putting on vague sounds of screeching and rain, and that would achieve the exact same thing.
I
So for
also like.
that, I think it's worse. It's the worst Alien movie ever made.
Oh, hello. We've got disagreement here.
uh,
I do like it also that apparently, according to IMDb, the critics at the time who were, down on AVP being too soft, were far too horrified by this film and said it went too far with the violence towards children and unborn babies.
okay,
So,
yeah, no, that is a well, that just shows their lack of foresight because A Quiet Place would come out and yeet the child in the first five
yeah,
minutes, and everyone was
literally
like, "Bravo, bellissimo, bellissimo, Krasinski,"
kill
and
them
then
kids.
yeah, kill him. It started a whole trend of putting kids in danger for things. And then yeah, but the I will agree that the whole Pred Alien killing the pregnant women is the worst thing I have ever seen in my entire life. But uh, it doesn't feel right in this movie because it is so horrific that you everything you're saying about B movie action schlock, fine, but like, don't maybe have chest bursters come out of the uterus and explode. Yeah, eat a fetus and explode out of a pregnant lady. Maybe don't do that then. This is where I was saying about Alien 3. I'm like, don't try and rape Ripley. That's a bit too far. It's weird to say that something is too far in an Alien film, but I do think those are all both too far.
Before we started recording today, I had no idea, and you couldn't have told me that we'd have more controversy about where we place AVP Requiem and AVP compared to Alien and Aliens. I really thought that would be a more fiercely debated topic than the bottom of the fucking barrel.
I'm just
But
I'm just more having fun that like visualizing the tier list right now on screen is S with those two, and then a gaping void. And it's just we're arguing over the trash at the bottom. We're just like, no, which is worse between
I
all of these? And
I
yet we
tell you
started
what,
this thing by saying we love Alien. Alien is a great
it,
franchise.
it will get better, I promise. I promise. Okay. Okay, listen, honey. Listen. I wanted to put AVPR above Alien Resurrection. I want that to be on record that I said that. Sue
Okay.
me.
And I wanted it in not even game over, man. This is the Spunkmeyer
This
for
is the
me.
Sunkfire movie of the week.
So shall we compromise and put it in D?
Can we please put it above AVP? We have no D category. It's ABC Game Over, man.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Can I will take either low C, like the lowest C below um did we put Alien 3 as the lowest C though?
Yes, at the moment.
I'll either take the lowest C or the highest Game Over, man.
I'll give you the lowest Game Over, man, because it is a bad film. I won't deny that. I just quite
Okay,
enjoy it.
you freak.
Anyways, uh,
Get on the
we all like
register.
trash. Trash.
Delicious trash. Yeah, I
A little
like
morsel
trash
of
I can
trash, please.
see. I'm already short-sighted. I don't need to add more handicap to my movie going experience.
Well, let's go from the dark of ADPR to the shining white, glistening engineers of
Oh,
Prometheus.
those beautiful, they were like Chad faces. They're the Chad me. No, they're hunky Squidwards.
The monkeys. Why can anyone take this movie seriously when they're fucking? Oh, anyway,
No, it bookends the whole movie as sexy Squidwards just going like
strutting.
and everybody in between is like, what? What's going on? And then sexy Squidward goes, don't ask questions, idiot, and flies away. I feel like that summarized the plot of Prometheus, actually.
Yep, I think we've done it.
Yeah, no, but like to actually outline it, this is a prequel. You okay? Take a breath. Yeah.
Yep.
Take a drink. Have some hooch. Yep. Okay.
Good. Go,
Have a cup
go,
of coffee.
fucking go.
Okay. Right. Prometheus is a prequel set many years before the arrest of the aliens. I can't remember exactly how long, but I think it's set in the late 21st century, if not early 22nd. The follows a group of scientists and being funded by old Guy Pearce to go and they've basically looked at a whole bunch of Indo-European like cave drawings, like the earliest like recorded human history, and found like a pattern of like a star system, and they want to go there because they think they're going to find the origins of humanity, the origins of human life, whether we were seeded or engineered, hence the name engineers for the big sexy Squidwards. And they you're going to go find him. Sexy Squidward. And be like, why'd you do that? And then yeah, they set off. They go down to this planet, remarkably, alieny looking planet. And they do the alien thing. They walk around a bunch of they do the same thing they did in AVP and Alien One, and kind of the start of Aliens, where they just kind of walk around a dilapidated old base, and then freaky shit happens. And then the freaky shit escalates to the point where they wake up a sexy Squidward, and they're like, "Hey, you're our creator. Do you want to answer our questions?" And he goes and rips Michael Fassbender's head off, and then flies away. All of the people die. Charlize Theron gets crushed by failing to roll out of the way of a cylindrical object.
So stupid.
Wonderful death. Created an entire trope of the Stormtrooper Marksmanship Academy, Prometheus running away from things. The and kind of ends with, oh yeah, and the whole time Michael Fassbender was being a creepy robot, just kind of fucking with people, just putting things in people's drinks, letting people die. The main lady gives birth to a squid monster, and then
Elizabeth Shaw.
Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, played by Numi Rapace, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, again, another stacked cast with Charlize Theron and an early Idris Elba doing an absolutely bizarre accent. And a whole bunch of other people. That one Scottish lady, That one guy who was the
Yes.
bad guy in a Mission Impossible movie.
The guy from Possum, the other film directed by Garth Marenghi's.
Sure. And then yeah, it had a lot of weight behind it, a lot of publicity, a lot of marketing. Everyone was like, "Oh, we're gonna find the origins of the aliens." And in totality, it turns out that like this is why I love talking about Alien is because I just love describing in the same way that people like describing the plot of Kingdom Hearts, where they're like, no, 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 stay with me here, stay with me here.
Now listen.
In Yeah, it's like, okay, number one, you want to take some black goo and then you put that black goo in a dude's drink and then it comes out of his eyeball and then he has sex with his wife and then that turns into a squid baby and then the squid baby impregnates sexy Squidward and then a thing with an eel mouth comes out of sexy Squidward and then confusion alien. And it while it promised a lot of like you're gonna find the origins of the alien, it very much asked more questions than it answered. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I feel like I've already been kind of making my feelings on the movie clear. I actually have a more in-depth video on my thoughts on this coming out eventually, in that I think that Ridley Scott is trolling people with this film. I think that it was a deliberate troll to be like, you want answers? You want to dispel the mystery and the fear of the alien? All right, fuck you. We're gonna have a saga, baby. We're gonna have so many steps to this journey. You're gonna forget why you even wanted to know in the first place. And we're gonna get like eventually that's kind of like the whole theme of the movie is that like you want answers. It's all this battle between faith and science and what is the meaning of life? What is our reason for existing? And everybody is kind of just trucking their way through, trying to find some kind of meaning in life. And then they get to ask God, "Hey, what's our purpose?" And God goes and rips off a guy's head, and it's like, what did that mean? What was the point of that all? And like, I think that that was the point: is that like your search for answers is futile and stupid and childish. And I think that the mystery and the confusion is part of life. And I think I'm fully, I admit, like reading very deep into the intentions of a man I have never met in my entire life, who has never spoken on this subject before, really, about like, yeah, no, I was fucking with you all with Prometheus, but that's how I read it. Like that's how I've because Ridley Scott is genuinely an amazing director and an amazing kind of storyteller. That for it to come out like this, I have to kind of ascribe some kind of meaning to it. And I think he was fucking with people. And yeah, that's my cope. I'm huffing pure copium by saying that, but I like it helps me enjoy it a little bit more because otherwise I'd look at this film and I'd be like, what the fuck was the point in all of that? You know?
Yeah, I think I looked at it and I to many extents I still do looked at it as the first part of a story, and because of that it's hard to judge it as just chapter one of what is a bigger piece.
And the
But
fact that
as
they
a
course corrected so hard after it to just take it straight to the
yeah,
aliens. You could tell that it was the first chapter of something and that the next one, Covenant, was not that next chapter. It was
no.
completely deviated from that.
I mean, they literally did an Alien 3 and just well, we'll get to it. Killed off the main character in Covenant. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, it's another weird. It wants to be a masterpiece, and he's try
Yes.
at least,
Yeah.
but it's not a masterpiece.
No.
And I look back quite, kind of a bit rose tinted with this film because this film I think was the first Alien film that came out when I was old enough to go and see them at the cinema, and so because of
Really?
that, I think it was super excited. Yeah, well, I mean, like AVP came out,
2012 was it? Or
yes, 2012. So
yeah.
I think it was a 15. So even though I was like what 17, I could still obviously go and see it. But like
Yeah.
AVPs came out like way like when I was like what like nine or like
Yeah. I
what
caught
was
it
it
on
nine or nine
TV like
eleven.
years after the fact on like Sky or something. So like yeah, I never went out to those, Yeah.
Yeah, so I think because of that, I was like, oh, this legendary series, I can finally see it. And so I think I forced myself, like, I went into it wanting to like it so much I couldn't help but like it. But and I think there's a lot of cool stuff around it. I liked the whole like ARG marketing around it, where there was a fake TED talk with young Guy Pearce before
Mhm.
he's then an old Guy Pearce, which is the only reason I can think of why they made him old Guy Pearce, um, instead of hiring just an elderly actor.
Yeah.
And I think again, it tries to do some cool things, but it also blends too much into sort of biblical allegories rather than quite prescient issues that face modern society, like
Yeah.
capitalism, fucking, um, like sexual assault and all these other things. I think
Yeah.
rather than going for those very sort of imminent, sort of, personal things that are very very prescient in society, it tries to go for these more esoteric themes that
Yeah.
kind of,
Abstract, existential
yeah,
stuff, you know?
it doesn't quite land with the heart as much as those other things which are very sort of visceral. And
No.
because of that, it's a pretty film. I think,
Oh
there's
yeah,
a
it's
lot of cool
gorgeous.
visuals in it, but it feels very skin deep, a lot of it. And also it's got some of the fucking dumbest humans I've ever seen.
Oh
Like
my God.
the fucking cartographer map man is the one who gets lost. Fuck off, mate. Like, that's
Honestly,
so
and then he spends the whole
stupid.
time being like, no, like immediately from the get-go, he's like, no, fuck all of this shit, I'm gonna leave. And then he leaves, and then he's like, oh hey, a cool little snake, I'm gonna go hug it. And it's like, what? And he's smoking weed in his suit the entire time. I'm like, yeah, no, you've earned your death. Who hired this
Yeah,
man, first of all?
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah.
dumb.
It's
It's a
very
film.
pretty, and I do think we it's worth mentioning that Michael Fassbender's performance as David is fantastic. He's
Oh
so
God, yeah.
like alluringly creepy. He's doing the same shtick he was doing with like Magneto in First Class of just like, oh, you're dangerous, but you're a lot of fun. I love this. This is great. Yeah.
Deliciously
He's
evil.
yes. Like classic British villain type, consciously as well. And as part of his character is that he's copying a lot of like iconic movie roles. So I like that. David is a character, like there's a reason he carried over the Covenant as like the thing that they were clearly most interested in talking about because he's so iconic here. But
And I think he is the film that for me makes this a B instead of a C.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. And you're right, it is very, very pretty. The soundtrack is very Vangelis-y, very, Blade Runner-esque and everything. It is trying to be profound and as a result kind of come across maybe as pretentious, depending on how forgiving you're being. But like that is undeniable that you're watching some really amazing vistas with some absolutely terrific soundtrack, with good actors. They are good actors. Nobody's really turning in a bad performance per se. It's just a lot of it is like you're asking questions that are very, very high up without kind of grounding them in the person. And they do try with, dealing with Numi Rapace and her husband's whole search for the engineers is a very personal one, relating to her father, who's weirdly played by I've forgotten his name.
oh, I
Uh
know it's gonna bug
Aquaman,
me now.
bad guy.
Oh,
I'm so sorry
Patrick
to
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson, I'm pretty sure, played her dad with a weird British accent in a flashback. Yeah, he was just calling in a lot of favors, Ridley Scott, being like, hey, Guy Pearce, do you want to be an old man makeup in like two scenes before dying? And hey, Patrick Wilson, do you want to be a English dad in a flashback that I'm going to put through like a visualizer for the thing? Yeah, but like, yeah, whatever. It's yeah, there's a lot of cool people on board, and it's very professionally made. It's very competent. It's like everybody knows what they're doing. It's just without that kind of heart. Oh yeah, what I was gonna say is that like her and her husband, they have like a personal reason to be doing it, but it seems so unrealistic that they find proof of an alien civilization, and then the husband they get really disappointed. They're like, "Oh, we wanted to talk to them," and I'm like, "You've just made the greatest discovery in the history of history. You have found proof of other life. You've found proof of humanity's seeding by an alien civilization and technology beyond anything we could imagine. And you're like, ugh, I wanted to like chat though. I wanted to I wanted to gab. I wanted to yap with sexy Squidward. Why didn't I get my yap sesh? And that just seems like that immediately like alienates me from the characters. Nothing they do makes sense from that point on. And
Mm.
it makes it really hard to relate or give a shit. And it just becomes comedy when they all start dying, which I don't think was the aim of the film. So
It,
yeah.
it's the dumbest smart film or the smartest dumb film of
I back
that I
that.
can think of.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's a B. It's not bad, but
Yeah.
it doesn't achieve what it's trying to do.
B for Bishop. Go on.
And finally, we have Alien Covenant. At time of recording, the last Alien film, because I'm dating this bitch, and we are very excited about Romulus. But for now, Alien Covenant
Hmm.
2017 is the most recent one, also directed by Ridley Scott. Um, kind of retcons a fucking ton of Prometheus, though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This I wonder how much of this was his intention or whether or not it was a acknowledgement or maybe pressure from feedback from Prometheus, which is give us that good, give us the alien. We came here for Alien and you did an Alien prequel. You didn't call it Alien, you called it Prometheus to be fair, but then this one, Alien Covenant. There we go. We're back to the standard formula, fighting off Alien and aliens in a from a group of people who are wholly unprepared to deal with an alien. So, it's just back to the formula, and it does feel quite formulaic a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's a lot of nothing from what I remember, and the fact that I don't remember a lot of this film, despite seeing it fairly recently. I think I rewatched this. I think that says something. I mean, it's another one
Yeah,
which has got a great cast. You've got David as sorry, Michael
Michael
Fassbender as
Fassbender back
David's,
again. Yep.
and his other one, is it like Henry or something like that as well? I can't remember what the
Uh,
other one's called.
Michael? No,
I can't remember what the other
what's the
android
guy's
is
name?
called.
But yeah, the
Uh,
yeah, because they did another the same kind of marketing campaign they did for Prometheus, which was they got James Franco as
yeah,
the original captain of the ship who dies in like the first 5 minutes, really suddenly. But there's an entire whole story and backstory that's told through like fake vlogs, I think,
yeah,
as his character's whole deal. It was Walter was Michael Fassbender's other one.
Walter, that was it.
Walter,
Um,
and he's got an American
yeah,
accent, this one. And yeah, they did a whole thing where James Franco had a whole character and backstory and arc, and then they kind of seem to expect you to have watched that for this film. Because I would just remember
yeah.
being surprised and confused, not really understanding his relationship to anybody. Like I didn't realize he was what's the face's husband either for a while. I was like, oh, I thought everybody was just kind of cut up about James Franco burning to death, but no, there was history there, and I did not get that from the movie at all. Which is a bizarre move. I don't really know if I like that, expecting people to watch every bit of peripheral internet content about a thing before you watch it. I don't know. I feel like that was an overstretch, kind of reading the room that people are much more accepting of non-traditional media, but then playing it a bit too far by going, yeah, no, they'll watch all of our YouTube videos. And it's like, no, I don't think the average viewer is. Um, but you're right, stacked cast, a weird cast as well.
I didn't realize it had Jussie Smollett in it.
Who the
Oh, have
hell
you
is
never
that?
heard about Jussie Smollett?
What about him? Oh, him.
The
What?
the guy.
Okay, I love Googling somebody's name and just seeing a huge section in Wikipedia. 2019 hate crime hoax.
Yeah, he fucked up his career big time, like really big time.
Okay. All right, that's my reading for later. That's very interesting. Okay, no, I had no idea about that. I was thinking more in terms of Danny McBride. Oddly, maybe my favorite character in the movie, or maybe my best like favorite performance in the movie besides Michael Fassbender. I mean, obviously
Oh,
Catherine
for
Watson's
sure.
pretty good, but it's very by the numbers, and I was just surprised that Danny McBride could do a genuinely heartfelt nuanced performance. I'm always surprised whenever comedians do it. It's a bit insulting where I'm like, what? You can act as well? And it's like, yeah, they've been doing that. They've just been funny while they've been doing it. But he did
I
surprise
mean,
me.
he's got
But
like a weird. He's had a weird career renaissance. Not that he's ever really faded away, but he wrote the entire new Halloween trilogy. He wrote
yeah,
the
yeah,
the screen for I mean, it was shit, but the new Exorcist movie, and
yeah.
his, it's just like
Just
got
watching
all
him
these.
and Seth Rogen gradually get a monopoly on things, because Seth Rogen
Yeah,
went and did Preacher and The Boys, and yeah, this guy's staking a lot of really popular media right now. They're all the it's
it's
all the This
it's.
Is the End guys just gradually taking it. If James Franco hadn't been such a weirdo, he
I
probably
know.
could have had another quarter of Hollywood right now. But yeah, like just as an overview, Covenant is about a colony of like yeah, colonists who were trying to find a planet to settle on for unknown reasons, and they get a distress signal which was set off by David, who has been hanging out. He went somewhere with Shaw at the end of Prometheus. They went off to go search for things, and in the intervening time has apparently killed and experimented on her, and using the alien goo he went to the sexy Squidward homeworld and killed all of the sexy Squidwards. And then yeah, for unknown reasons, there's a lot of for unknown reasons in this section of the Alien franchise. And then they arrive, they meet him, he's weird, he sicks the aliens on them, and finally creates the iconic alien through a combination of what are they called? The neomorphs instead of the
Yeah.
xenomorphs? Yeah, the white, like shiny aliens instead, and eventually makes the aliens who start killing everybody, and then they have a big fight. And then, in keeping with franchise roots, have a massive downer ending, which is really a lot of fun, where because they have an android who looks exactly the same as well, another model called Walter. They have a fight at some point in the film that's really goofy to watch. They have a fluting scene that is also really funny to watch. Um, and they have a fight, and secretly David swaps places with Walter, tricks everybody, and then puts a bunch of alien eggs in the colony ship and zoops off for reasons unknown. I do feel like David is the greatest successor to the alien because he's another gremlin-y sort of fella. He's just up to no good, and it's like, what are you doing this for? And he's like, T reasons, and he's just kind of curious. I like it. It's my favorite thing
Oh,
about the Prometheus era is just how he's just doing it for his own poops and giggles.
oh yeah. He's literally just like a kid with a ant's nest who's just like, I wonder what happens if I put this magnifying glass up to things.
Yeah,
He's literally just doing it because he wants to. It's not
yeah,
anything else other than that, and I respect that.
yeah.
I don't
What do
know
you
how I
think?
feel about this film because I it's another one which I feel like when I look at the sum of its parts, I'm like, okay, there's some cool stuff in there. Like I think it's an interesting way to sort of debut the OG xenomorph, saying, "Oh shit, it was a man-made design that caused this to happen." I think
Yeah, very
that's.
keeping in keeping with the themes of the Alien franchise. It's like, yeah, but that was man-made.
But also, this film's really boring, and I can't get past that. Like, it's if
Yeah.
anything for me, it might even be more boring than Prometheus.
I think so, yeah. I find Prometheus engaging in a different way to like a standard alien film, but it is engaging. It's discovery, it's wonder, it's a bit of curiosity, and a little bit of like the fear of the unknown in a more scientific way, as opposed to like the deep entrenched horror of like Alien. But like yeah, whereas this one, it's just what's the vibe of Covenant? It's go to a planet. It's not quite B movie schlock. You look at all of the disposable characters and you're like, yep, kill them off. But it doesn't have this. It doesn't hit quite in like the gleeful kind of requiem kind of way.
Hmm.
It's not quite the spirit of discovery and questions about humanity and life. They've dropped that entirely. That's just gone from the film now, like the franchise now after Prometheus. So it's not like a think piece in any way. It doesn't. It's not even like a. It doesn't speak to anything of our times either. Like, while the first one, the second one, and even a little bit of some of the later ones do speak to reflect something of our era in their storytelling. Like, what is Covenant like? How do you relate to Covenant in any way? Like, none of
Hmm.
the things that happen in it are uh meaningful. It's just, oh yeah, some aliens kill people. That's kind of it. And they're not even that like
Yeah.
inventive. I do remember the one coming out of the guy's back. That was awful in the room. They played that up in the trailers a lot, I remember. because it kind of was the thing, and it did seem like they were just coming up with like, what fucked up thing can we do next? And they have an alien come out of the guy's mouth, and they have an alien come out of the guy's back, and it's like, yeah, yeah, that is pretty fucked up. You're just so detached, so neutral about it all. God,
Hmm. Where are we thinking on the tier list?
what does the sea look like from highest to lowest?
From highest to lowest at the moment, we have Alien Resurrection, and below that, Alien 3.
Oh God, is it better or worse than three? Because it's not fun, so it's got to be below Resurrection.
I think it goes between Resurrection and 3. I would
I
rather
think
watch
so.
Covenant than 3.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's
I didn't
quite
expect,
sad.
yeah, I didn't expect Covenant to be that low. I thought it might end up sitting around the B territory, but I can't argue with that. I think that's fair, which is a shame. And hopefully, Romulus can pick that up a bit because God damn, that's a low bar. So basically, just to summarize now, we've got a series which we both said at the start we hold a lot of reference for, but it's looking pretty bottom thick right now. I'll go through the list
Pick.
uh
Yeah.
for for you because you can't see the screen. So at the bottom in Game Over Man, we've got AVP, then AVP Requiem. C tier, we've got Alien 3, Alien Covenant, and then Alien Resurrection. B tier, we've got Prometheus. Nothing in A, and then in perfect organism, we've got Aliens and Alien. And you know what? There's not a lot I'd move around with that, to be
No,
honest.
I think we've established our differences when it comes to the AVPs, but I think on everything else, I'm in full agreement. Like, yeah, that's so sad that like the first two peak so high, and I think that's probably why we're still stuck on the franchise and keep going to watch these every day. Is that those two are so good that any hint whatsoever
Literally.
that they could reclaim that glory is like worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah,
Like,
we haven't reached that point of fatigue yet because I felt the same for a long time about the Terminator films where
mm,
one and two are I mean particularly two is just like an
yeah.
absolute masterpiece, and then they gradually get lower in quality, and then all of a sudden you had Dark Fate where they brought back who's her face, Sarah Connor, and
Yeah.
but specifically Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, and I'm like, oh, let's get back into this. It's shit again,
Yeah.
but it's because
Every
you're
time you think
dreaming.
they're out, they drag you back in.
I know, but it's because you just cling on to that hope of what those first two did, and it's exactly the same with Alien. You
And it's
want
the
to
same
get
with
that
Predator,
magic.
except they actually did hit once. Prey, I think, is
Yeah,
the best Predator film. And like, yeah, that is probably contributing because I lump Alien, Predator, and Terminator all in that same headspace for me. Like every time it's like a little bit good, I'm like, yeah, come on, baby, another 20 years of this shit. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And honestly, like Romulus does look like it looks like the same as that guy has made before. I've forgotten the director's name, but Don't
oh, Fede
Breathe and
Alvarez.
yeah, Don't Breathe and Evil Dead. It looks like that shit again. Like almost the exact same premise as Don't Breathe, actually. And like I can kind of see what that film is going to be. I feel like I'm going to like it, but it's not going to hit what I came to the Alien franchise for in the first place, which is that they were a lot of things all at once. And some of them have done good things in some ways. Like you say, you like the B schlock of Requiem, you like the B movie shit of it, and I liked some of the concepts and themes of Alien 3, but they completely fail in every other regard. And yet those two films have like the most amazing combination of 1,000 different things. I feel like they're attempting to do with Romulus, from what it looks like, is just, hey, we're gonna have like a big scary, jump scary alien encounter. It's going to be loud and it's going to be dumb and it's going to be fun. And I'm like, not really what I'm looking for. I want the whole
I'm
package, baby.
I'm gonna see it in 4DX, and I'm gonna have a great time having acid spat on my face.
That's going to be
Uh,
loud. Your
yeah.
ears. My goodness, you're going to get
Uh,
rocked around. That bit where the
I'm
alien screams at her. Oh, yeah.
I'm looking
That's going to
forward
be
to it.
fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to see
But
it. Yeah.
I'm pretty content with the list that we've got at the moment. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Where would you put the Alien films? I don't know. You tell us. And if you've seen Romulus and it's the future now, let us know what it's like. I'm gonna try and see it the day it comes out. So spoiler free, I guess. You can tell me what you want.
Yeah, go
Um,
for it. Yeah. I'll come back to
Yeah,
this later and argue with you all in the comments. Love that. And yeah, hurl all of the hatred you have at Tom for liking Requiem.
it's.
Because he's wrong. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a fucking video of it and I'll put it on your fucking YouTube channel, and and you're gonna be pleased.
And you're gonna be
Uh,
fucking pleased about it.
ugh. I kind of just want to make this my hill to die on, just to be a contrarian little fucker now. Like, just
Yeah, that's your whole shtick, actually. Star Wars prequels, AVP Requiem. You really do love the trash. A lot of us say, like, "Ugh, I like the trash, I'm just such a trash boy." And we're talking about like 6 out of 10s. You're talking about the bottom, the dregs. You're a true like monkfish hanging out in the bottom of the floor, just sucking up the dirt.
they call me Barnacle Baker for reasons. Yeah, like I'm gonna make this video. I'm gonna wear my Rise of Skywalker spirit jersey, and I'm gonna.
Jurassic World Dominion sequel.
It's
Hey
not bad
guys.
film.
Yeah, yes, no, we don't have time. We've already gone over time.
Well, I'm gonna go plug in my Blu-ray 3D player, and I'm gonna go and watch me some Skyline, and I'm gonna leave
Damn
you now.
straight.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to UDS Films. If you've got made it this far and you haven't subscribed, frankly, you're a wanker. So yes, just do it.
Agreed.
Um, and if you want us to tier list more stuff, let us know what that is as well. And yeah, bye bye.
Bye.
God, I want a pizza now.